Now I'm going to call on you to try to remember everything that I've taught you the last 2 years or 3. Mike's not in here, so he's been.
Well, Max can stand in. He's
Max is in here.
been in here long time.
Okay. Tonight we're going to look at AI and what it has to do with the end times and so forth. Now we already covered kind of where we are now without including that, and probably should have included that when I did that, but we're going to do it tonight. So here's the thing. I take you back to one thing, which is very repetitive, okay? That is, go back to the Garden of Eden, the conflict between good and evil. Everything that you see in the world today that we're up against, it's not political, it's not a lot of things, it's good against evil. It is, it's good against this degrading debauchery, all this stuff, and these people are going wild, they're going wild, and Scripture says that. Scripture is clear about the fact that if you do not put how would we say, a damper on it, you know, it will continue to get out of hand, and it's out of hand now. They're attacking churches, attacked one today, and they kill people, burn the church down, and so forth. So I need you to understand that, okay? That is going on. From that very point in Genesis 3, this conflict has been just moving along. It's been moving along. We've studied a lot of that, but it's coming along, good against evil. And the Bible says that in the end, if you go to book of Revelation, in the end, obviously good is going to win out. But right now, we're in the midst of a battle in all over the world, actually, especially in the United States, because we're here in a free country, supposedly. And so that's kind of where we are. Now, the third thing, we focused a lot on this, that the time and the clock is ticking. The clock is ticking, and it's in the last, you know, if you described it as being midnight, it's 2 or 3 minutes from midnight now on the end of this thing, and the time coming to an end. So the battle against good and evil started way back before Genesis, but we tag it for our part, man, we started there, is our understanding. So it goes along, and it's been going along for a while, and so thousands of years, actually. So we're there, right? And so I want to read you some things. Now here's the latest thing, right? We talk a lot about AI and so forth. In light of what I just told you, try to imagine that when the Antichrist comes, when the church is raptured out and the Antichrist comes, in your mind, you need to kind of promulgate, try to expand your thinking on what would Satan need through the Antichrist. And it won't be Satan that appears, it'll be the Antichrist, right? And he will come. What does he need to take control of the world? All right, take control of it, and then move it on through the last days of how this is going to happen, from the rapture on, which is only 7 years, and so it has to move to the end. Okay, so what would he have to have in place in order to do that? Money, yeah, you have to have money, technology, control. You cannot. All right, think about this. Is there 6 or 8 billion people in the world? I can't remember. 6 or 8 billion people in the world. You have to control all those people. They all have to be controlled. Now then, if you were going to control these people, what would you need to do? We've said money, but what else would you need to do to control them? Food supply. Mm-hmm. And so we need money, food. There's a third thing that you need, and that is, what is it that we would expect that will reduce the chaos? Because it's got to be chaos. You know, I mean, it has to be some kind of a leader, management. Yeah. So it would have to be managed.
It's a deception. It's got to look okay, but it's not.
That's right. It's got to be like, in order to keep people under control, you got to feed them, and give them some indication that things will be better, or that you have somebody similar like the Antichrist who says, okay, I got all this under control, you don't have to worry, right? That kind of thing. So you got to have all those things, right? Now, the next question you have to ask yourself is, how does one person do that? You know, it's very difficult. Now, I saw the other day where they said that during the Second World War, Pete Hegseth said that there were only like 10 or 12 four-star generals, and now we've got like, I don't know, 70 or 80, yeah, a bunch of them. Do you know that we won that war totally within 3 or 4 years without a single computer? There were no computers. All that was done by hand, calculated by hand. Everything went by mail, you know, or there's a cable run across the ocean. Of course, you could do it by wire, that kind of stuff, but no computers, nobody to keep up with all the numbers and so forth. Now, so now what you've heard in this class up until now about where we are and so forth, we know we're in the last days. Maybe the next to the last thing has arrived with AI. It's supposedly artificial intelligence, right? Now, when the Antichrist comes, he's going to be it's my opinion that he is going to come out of the technology. He's going to be a technological person. He's going to be somebody who understands how to use this, right? Now, I'm going to read you something here. I did some research on this. There are different categories in AI. There's about 5 or 6 now. There's going to be more than that, but right now that's what it is. I picked out the deep learning one because it's very interesting to hear what they say about it. It says deep learning is a subset of machine learning that uses multi-layered neural networks called deep neural networks that more closely simulate the complex decision-making power of the human brain. So these neural networks are the same. That's the same term that's used for the neural pathways in your brain. It's the same term that's used. All right. So this is a machine. Okay. So this is a machine or a set of, things like the software and all that kind of thing. It says here, deep neural networks include an input layer, at least 3, but usually hundreds of hidden layers, and an output layer, unlike neural networks used in classic machine learning models, which usually have only 1 or 2 hidden layers. Now listen, that sounds like a lot of confusing stuff, but it's really not. What it is, this thing has gotten already, and this is in the early stages, it's already got multiple layers of learning and will learn on its own. And when you ask them the question, is that a danger to humanity? Of course it is.
Donnie,
Yes.
on Fox this week, on the news, it said that there is a category of the AI, whatever they are, that will not turn off. You can try to turn them off, but there's a whole category that you can't get them to stop.
Yeah, and they what they tell you is that there's that inside that network, it says that they built into it the ability to turn it off. Problem is the description of this right here, this thing can make its own path once it gets going. And you think you can control it, but you can't, right? All right. It says because deep learning doesn't require human intervention, right? It enables machine learning at a tremendous scale, right? It is well suited to natural language processing, computer vision, and other tasks that involve the fast, accurate identification of complex patterns and relationships in large amounts of data. Some form of deep learning powers most of the artificial intelligence applications in our lives today. You're already using it. When you use your GPS, we're using it in multiple ways now. We're going to go deeper than that, further than that. Now, here's the thing. If you can pull all of this together, and you can see that once the Antichrist arrives and the church is gone, the chaos that's created when the church leaves with both government, food, and all the other things we're talking about, the things that are necessary for people to subsist. The people who are left here are going to be looking for one person. They're going to look for somebody who can get them out of this chaos, right? All right. So the idea that this software cannot be invaded by Satan is ludicrous. It can. You know, it can be that. What if the Antichrist is an AI expert? Maybe he's already an AI expert, and so he comes into this not knowing that he's been used by Satan, but at some point he will be dwelt by Satan about midway of the tribulation, and so he will have that. But Satan has a different idea on this, right? His whole we've discussed this in it multiple times. His whole idea is to control God's creation. He was made at first to do that. He was thrown out. Then Adam was made to do that, and Adam sinned. Then redemption came through Jesus Christ and so forth. And so it comes back down to the last 7 years. So AI, I want to read you, if you look in the book of Revelation, did y'all look up Mystery Babylon last week? Somebody? A little bit. Did y'all look that up? That was your homework. The ones that didn't do it can come up here and sit in these chairs. They ain't for 2 chairs. Revelation chapter 14, verse 1. Now, this is going to come up later on the other parts of this, but I'm going to hit some high points for you tonight about this, all right? Now, we discussed the 3 things: the government, religion, okay, and the economy. Those are the 3 things that he will need to have in order to control the population. All right. On the religious side of this, we know that he is evil. And so therefore you remember in Timothy where he talked about following after doctrines of devils. Okay. Those doctrines of devils will be built into the software, obviously. If you say to yourself, well, what would be an example of that? Well, here's the thing. Let's just say there was somebody left that you know that wasn't saved, but they're left during the tribulation, and they still are, say, something like pro-life or anti-Satan. You know, 1 or 2 strokes by AI would eliminate your whole existence. You wouldn't exist, not a name, not a social security number, not ink, because what's he going to do? He's going to tag people with numbers. Now I'm convinced after looking at this that this is not it's not an actual, it's a number, but it's a barcode. It's 666, but it's a barcode. It's not the number itself, because now, y'all handle this technology every day. I mean, you can go somewhere, you don't even have to stick a card in anymore, just tap the thing and it gets it all right there and it's just done, you just move on. It would be foolish for us to believe that the positioning of this particular subject is not here for a purpose. It is here because this very well may be the last big thing short of the rapture that takes place. This could be the last thing because this is all that he needs. Now I'm going to read you something here. Keep in mind that through Revelation 14 through Revelation 18, all right, these, through 16, 14, 15, 16, and a little bit in 18, but 14, 15, 16 talks about the fall of Mystery Babylon. Right? Babylon, as it's referred to here, well, we're reading and I can explain it to you. He said, then I looked, and this is John talking, then I looked and behold, a lamb standing on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000. This is the 144,000 witnesses. It's not Jehovah's Witnesses, having his father's name written on their foreheads. You know, they were marked in the very beginning. If you go back to chapter 4 and 5 of Revelation, they were marked initially so nobody could touch them because they are now the Jewish witnesses of the gospel. God opened their eyes. They are now preaching the gospel because church is gone. All right. Church is gone. they're preaching the gospel to the ones that are left. I think it's amazing. Now, was it Charles Spurgeon? Whichever one that said it, he said it's a surprise. I told y'all this last week. He said, I'm surprised that we're able to be saved anyway, because except for the grace of God, we could not. I mean, he said, I'm totally surprised because by the grace of God, we can be saved, right? So he says, he marked these 144,000 and they cannot be killed. And so it says here, behold, they had the Father's name written on their foreheads, and I heard a voice from heaven, like the voice of many waters, like the voice of a loud thunder, and I heard the sound of harpists playing their harps. Now this music is coming out of heaven, okay? This is because it's opened up, and so this music is coming out of heaven, all right? And he says, and I heard the sound of harp playing harps. And he says, they sang as it were a new song before the throne, before the four living creatures and the elders, and no one could learn that song except the 144,000 who were redeemed from the earth. Okay, so that message, okay, I'm convinced that that message is the same message that Jesus, when he went into paradise and preached to the souls who were believers before he came from the Old Testament, it's the same message, because these 144,000 are all Jews. And so he said nobody understood that message but them. And so therefore they understood what that message meant. And that was, I believe, that everything's about to come to an end. It's right at this within a year or two or whatever. But he says, these are the ones who were not defiled by women, for they are virgins. These are the ones who follow the Lamb wherever he goes. These were redeemed from among men, being the first fruits to God, to the Lamb, and in their mouth was found no deceit, for they were without fault before the throne of God. So this 144,000, they're preaching the gospel, right? And they're recognized for that. But the next paragraph is the one we want to look at, right? Verse 6, then I saw another angel flying in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach to those who dwell on the earth. Now, I've got to tell y'all, we cannot under any circumstances, reasonable believers, diminish the power of the gospel. It is the gospel that saves us. Even here in a heavenly vision, right? In a heavenly vision before everything's about to come to an end, right? He says that. You see what he says when he uses that? It's the everlasting gospel. The gospel didn't start just when Jesus came. The gospel started before the world was ever created. He said when he talks about everlasting, he's talking about having no beginning and no end. The everlasting gospel, he says, to preach to those who dwell on the earth. So here's your other thing, right? Here they are, they're preaching to those who are left, who were lost, who were not raptured out, they were not believers, and they get to hear the everlasting gospel. In this case, they get to hear it from the 144,000 because they are the witnesses. They're down there preaching. And he identifies it here as the same thing by which we have believed. It's not any different. It's the same gospel, okay? So look at what he says. He said, to every tribe, nation, tongue, and people, saying with a loud voice, fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment has come, and worship him who made heaven and earth and the seas and the springs of water. So what is their message? Their message is the message that judgment is coming now. And you know, when we go out and witness somebody, we say, well, you know, judgment's eventually coming. But this is halfway through, almost halfway through the tribulation. So they've got to look around them and say, certainly it is. It's already here, obviously, right? Now, verse 8 is the one that's related to Ai. And another angel followed, saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she had made all nations drink of the wine of her wrath and her fornication. This spiritual fornication is the largest problem that the world has now. What do we mean by that? By saying that you are a believer, but you don't preach the everlasting gospel. What you do is you bounce around on it and this, that, you know, there's all kinds of churches. The core of the gospel cannot be left out, because what has happened when he talks about She fornicated with everybody in the world. What this, we'll see this in a minute, that when we pull this together, there is a worldwide church. Most of us, most theologians believe at least, this is going to be the Roman church. Maybe not the Catholic Church as we understand it in the U.S., the Roman church based in Rome. Okay? It's further down if we can get to it, but that's probably who it is. But here's why. They're their own country, right? They're their own country. They have their own ambassadors. They're ready. They're set up for this. They're set up for this. Now, who's going to be in charge at that time? I have no idea. And so I don't pass judgment one way or the other on the popes. All I can tell you is that this force, when we say that he has to have a religious affiliation, not affiliation, but he has to have something that has to do with God and religion. He's got to have a church of some kind. He's got to have somebody that has some religious background, so that they can deal with the religious needs of people. This fornication that he's talking about, spiritual fornication, when you sell somebody something, when you sell something to somebody, spiritually speaking here, that cannot produce the life that you promise. He said this, verse 8, Babylon is fallen. This is a pronouncement. Now keep this in mind. Babylon is a system. It is a system, okay? Babylon was also a government back in the days of Nehemiah and some of those, yes. But Babylon here is a system. What is involved in that system? The government, the economy, and the church. That's what makes up that description right there. This is the system that he's pulled together. How do we know that? Well, we will when we get into study in more detail, but you know that the Antichrist, halfway through the tribulation, goes into Jerusalem, declares himself to be the Messiah, declares himself to be God. And at that moment, the Jewish nation's eyes are opened and they see that he is anti-God, that he is antichrist. That's after Satan indwells the Antichrist. You understand that Satan is not going to show up himself in his form. He's a spirit. And so he's going to indwell the Antichrist. When you go to the end of the book of Revelation, and you see in chapters 20 and 21, where he's taken and thrown into the bottomless pit, it doesn't talk much about whether he had a body or he didn't, but more than likely, if he's in the body of the Antichrist, he did. But the fact is, he's a spirit. And God takes him by the scruff of the neck, throws him into the bottomless pit, and locks him up for 1,000 years. When he comes back out, then he gets thrown into the lake of fire. But Satan himself, not the Antichrist, Antichrist's already there. So the body that he indwells is already in the lake of fire at that time. Now, here's what he says. He said, because she has made all nations. You see the word made? If you read your news, if you listen to your news now, and you look at most of the UN walked out the other day, but Netanyahu spoke. They all hate Israel. They want them destroyed. You got people that were fighting in this country wanting to do that, right? And so they want to see Israel gone. However, whoever the spiritual church is here is spiritual in the sense, not like we would understand it, but whoever the church is, whoever the religious part of this is, they're going to feel the same way. I mean, they're going to cooperate with the government. You realize that, maybe you don't realize this, but I know somebody that knows somebody. The Roman Church in Rome now, they control, because of the amount, and nobody knows how much money they have. It's the largest amount of money, either in gold or other money in the world. They hold in gold deposits. They have the largest gold deposit of anybody, including the Saudis, of anybody in the world. So they're sitting on that. They're sitting there on that. All right. And so they control every bank. The guy gave me the latitude, and the latitude is in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. He said anything east of that latitude, a large bank that has any really large transaction has to get approval from Vatican. Like with us, we have the Federal Reserve Bank supposedly holding all of our cash. In that case, while it's not clear there because they're their own country, you can put the money into that country. You're separate because the Vatican is its own country. And so they control that money. So here's what he said. He said that all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of that fornication. You know what that means? That means that whoever that is, if it is the Roman Church, they go to them before anything else is done. They depend on them. They depend on them to fund or do whatever else there is, right? And so when you start talking about AI, okay, when you start talking about that, it's a tool that he will use that will be interlinked within all of this stuff between the church, the government, and so forth. Now, the Antichrist, he will control the whole thing, but he'll have those three things under control. This the AI will be able on its own, and once it's indwelt about whatever Satan does with it, all Satan's got to do is write some code in there that blocks everybody else out. All the people who are writing it, all that kind of stuff. It's going to be much more. If you think it's powerful now, you wait till about 10 years from now. It's going to be uncontrollable, right? Think about this. Every single thing, this day and time, every single thing that you participate in, from getting gas to your light bill, to buying clothes, to buying food, there's no cash. I mean, I guess you could carry cash if you wanted to, but they're trying to get away from the cash. That's another parallel idea here that they're running with AI, is to make sure that at some point there's no cash. And because if there's no cash, then everything's controlled electronically, and this thing is going to have a mind of its own. And that mind is going to be controlled by Satan, by the Antichrist. He's going to be his pawn, right? Now, when you look in Revelation 14, you're looking in the first 3.5 years after the rapture is where you see here. Now, what he's doing here in this description, what he's telling you is that the thing we're talking about today, this is what it looks like. You see the picture? That's what it looks like. He shows it right there. He says, this is not only spiritual fornication where you've got the church or some religious spiritual thing that so-called that's doing this, but everything else, including the government, including your economy, all those things, right? And it says here that the whole world, she uses a she there, all right? Now, I could go back and show you how that connects to the Roman Church, but that's very complicated, and it's not time to do that now. But anyway, if it is the Roman Church or if it's somebody else, whoever it is, which I believe that's who it is, but it said she made all the nations. You see the word made? You have to have control. Every time you look at this, okay, every time you look at this and consider where you are scripturally toward the last days, you have to understand that there's only going to be one person in charge. God's in charge overall. But on the earth here, there's going to be one person driving this engine, and it's going to be the Antichrist. And he will use this platform to do that. He can, in fact, if you read this whole article, I got 8 pages, I read it all. I have to tell you that it is programmable to the point to where it doesn't even need any human input. So you could be the Antichrist sitting somewhere, and you have this written. You have code in there that can't be changed with the exception of him. And every single person in the world, because food, energy, medical, What about medical? You know why they ask you when you want to know why they ask you if you've fallen? Some of us in here that are older. I just turned 42 and they're still asking me. You know why they ask you that? They ask you every time they ask you, at least they do me. I finally told a woman the other day, I said, I have not fallen. I said, and I don't plan on falling. Little did she know that I climbed up on my wood fence and the thing broke. And I just went round down to the other side. I didn't have any idea it was rotted. I do now. You know, the reason they need to know that is they in their system, they can cut you off at any minute. They can say, well, he's a fall risk, so therefore goes up, she's a fall risk or whatever. They're controlling all of that. And how long has it been since you were able to talk to an American service person on the phone? Never.
Years,
Not lately.
years.
And it irritates me so badly. I said, I'll be honest with you, you need to give this job up until you can speak English. I said, I can't talk to you anymore because I don't have time to waste like that. And then next time you call, get somebody else just like. Now, any questions so far about that? That's the, what do you call it, preface. All right. Look in verse 9 of Revelation 14. Then a third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if anyone worship the beast and his image and receives his mark on his forehead or on his hand, he himself shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out full strength into the cup of his indignation. That's a long description for saying the wrath of God is coming upon all of those who are lost, who are not saved. And in this case, they may be alive, but once they take that mark, they don't have any more chances. That's it. They will be in the middle of that and they will be destroyed and spend eternity in hell. Now, you see where he says the wine of the wrath of God. We don't have any idea. We can read all of this. I've read many times, and you try to, in your mind, get some idea about what that persecution is going to be like. But we can't even imagine this. You got rivers turning into blood. You got the sun darkened. You got all of these things going on like it did down in Egypt before he turned his people loose, turns God's people loose. So, but this is going to be much worse. But see, these people, if the rapture were to happen today, some people that all of us know will be left here. You know that. All of us know somebody that'll be left here. And as far as we're concerned, they're nice people. In our way of calculating, they're good people. But this says here, they will be forced to drink the wine of the wrath of God. That's pretty rough. That's a rough description of what this is going to be like, right? It says it's poured out full strength. It's not cut, full strength. Whatever you have seen before where God intervened, it says this comes out of the wine flask, full strength. No holdback, total destruction. Everything that we see described here in that whole book. And it says, he shall be tormented. This is the same person. That's an unbeliever. He shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascends forever and ever, and they have no rest day or night who worship the beast and his image and whoever receives the mark of his name. I'm going to take you back one more time. This has to do. This is what we call. The Bible calls Satan sitting in the temple halfway through is the abomination of desolation. What this is, it's only one thing, and it's not complicated. It's the rejection of the everlasting gospel. You understand? It's the rejection of the everlasting gospel. They will be tormented forever. And because here he speaks specifically about the ones during the tribulation, he speaks specifically about them here. But it is the same thing for all those who have died separated from God. and they receive the mark of his name. Now listen, if you don't receive the mark, you can't live. You will starve to death, or they will catch up with you and behead you or whatever. And people obviously will try that, but it won't work. All right, but those who receive that mark, he says in verse 12, now here's the patience of the saints. Here are those who keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. Then I heard a voice in heaven saying, right, blessed are the dead who die in the Lord from now on. You know what that means? That means that people are going to be converted and they will be executed. But he said, blessed are those from this point. He makes a distinct point there. What he says is, from right now, from this word, from what I've just said, from this point on, it's going to be rough. And if you're saved, you probably be executed. But blessed are those who are executed for that. Verse 14, well, actually, best of verse 13. If you read it, it said, yes, says the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors and their works will follow them. All right. Now, I want you to look at the religious part of this. Now, you're clear. We're all clear, right? Because we're technology people. We know about some stuff. We can't write any, but we know the common things, like you can do anything from your phone, you can do from your computer, those kind of things. Y'all understand all that. You have to deal with it every day, right? Right. Everybody knows that. From your telephone to your lights and everything. Because the second question then is, do you understand that AI is nothing but an expansion of what you have now? It is already here. It's already here. And this is the lie that Satan puts out, right? Oh, this is going to help you. Yeah. You know, one of the things that they said about that started off when they were talking about it, they said that, oh, well, the AI can determine tumors and diseases and things like that. Let me ask you a question. So let's say AI is in control of this, not now, but then, let's just say, do you think that number one, it has no soul? Do you understand what having a soul is? We do understand that. The machine has no soul. It does what it's told, right? And then it does some things on its own that it's not told. So it evolves, right? So it doesn't have a soul. So you can't look at somebody and say, well, I have some sympathy here, something. It has no sympathy. All right? You have to have a couple lines of code that says, somewhere in that whole menagerie, you got to have a couple lines of code that says this: protect the three-part thing here, religion and so forth, at all costs. Humans mean nothing. That's where that's headed. You got some of that going on now. I mean, in California, you get put in jail for abusing a dog, which you can kill your child. They're trying to get it to where you can kill them 1.5 years old if you don't want them. Y'all get it. I know y'all get it. There's a lot of people don't get this. It's around us now. Now, here's the thing. Go ahead.
I heard in England today, it's just that a Muslim was burning, a Christian was burning the Quran, and a Muslim came up and attacked him with a knife. Well, they said it's okay, it was his country, and a woman, a regular English woman, said something on social media about something happened, and they took her and put her in jail and put maximum law.
Yeah, and that's really a problem.
Oh, Europe's like gone.
Yeah.
Great Britain to London.
You have to. What I need y'all to see tonight related to this, now this is a short lesson, but is exactly that same thing. You have to understand that it's here. It's not coming. It's here. And the United States of America, unfortunately, will be the jumping off place. We will build enough power through small nuclear stations that they're putting in service now to energize all this equipment. And it will be controlled from here. Now, this is my question, all right? It seems like for what we believe, everything's moving well for us now. What happens when you get another one of the sorry leaders? All right, it's inevitable that it happened because it has to get to a certain point. Y'all understand, this does not regress. It does not go back. It goes forward. And what Satan does, one of his tricks is he wants to throw a little bit of good in there and say, oh, look how good this is going, while he is at the same time plotting to infect that with whatever he needs to control everything. And he has to have this AI to control. And listen, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, 40 years ago, when I was 3, if you had asked somebody the same thing, they'd have said, what? You mean to tell me that you can go to a service station, just put your card in there and you can get gas? Yeah, can't be. I remember we had to run the credit cards through a machine. You know, a stamping thing. Anybody remember that? Yeah. Ryan doesn't remember this. So Nick don't remember.
So why is AI, why are they saying that it's so important that we progress and be the best? Yeah.
This is the scam that Satan puts out. This is being run by this devilish doctrine that we talk about in here from 1st, 2nd Timothy. We talk about that, right? This is all part of a plan where he fools us into believing that the benefits from it are worth pushing this to get ahead of everybody else. And that's what it is. It's covered up. That's the reason that he won't come into, Satan won't come in, say in a church when it comes to preaching and so forth. He's not going to come in and just have somebody come in who will say, we don't believe any of this, any of this, any of this. What he does is he waters the gospel down, which accomplishes the same purpose, because he would never come at you directly. He doesn't do that. He's a liar and he's a murderer from the beginning. And that's what the Lord himself said. And so he covers it up, and we're just, listen, you know that little story we tell about going from Memphis to New Orleans? You can get on that train. You can do whatever you want to. You can sleep, you can read, you can eat. You can do whatever you want to. But that train is going to New Orleans, and there's nothing that you can do to change that. It's the same thing with this. This stuff is in motion now. There's nothing you can do to stop it. You know the reason that we have these classes, there should be 200 or 300 people in here as believers. We should be trying to warn people that you don't have much longer. Some of us that are our age, not a big deal, but the younger ones, we need to warn people. The reason for learning about this is not just to learn it, but to understand that judgment is coming. And judgment is coming, and it can't be stopped. It cannot be stopped. It's on the rail now, and it's moving. And and maybe Donald Trump and others were elected to move it along faster. I don't know. I don't think he knows enough about it to understand this. He probably never heard this before. But the fact is, Satan is plotting behind the scenes. Listen, what do you think? What do you think of all of this? You hear it more and more now. All of this violence against children, little children. I mean, some of the most despicable stuff that you could ever think of. And nobody's required to answer. They got a guy I read about today that's 91 years old, been in jail in California since he was 35. He killed 4 people. I don't know why they hadn't executed him before now. Why don't we feed him for 60 years? I don't understand that. But see, all of this is part of an integrated plan. It's not random. None of this stuff is random. None of it's random. This has a specific purpose. Now, I want to read. We're not going to finish that, but I'm going to read you one other thing here. Revelation 18:11. Look at that. This is the economic part of this, which will back up what I told you in the beginning. All right. Revelation 18:11. Now, let me give you some preface for this before we read it. Busing in our country, started by Lyndon Johnson, destroyed our education system, the elementary, high schools. Now, who do you think came out the best on that? The people who made the buses. They're selling hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars worth of buses. That's just a small example. There's something connected to every single thing. Why do you think that we've killed 79 million children in this country since 1973? And they're still doing it, not as open as they were, but they're still doing it. It's human sacrifice. But besides that, they got a couple of people that coming up on the federal charges now for selling fetal tissue. They caught them selling it. You know who they put in jail? The guy who recorded it. That's who got put in jail. It just got thrown out, but he got put in jail for recording them making a deal to sell fetal tissue. Let me tell you something else. Y'all might have heard this ad. There's an ad on Fox News, and be careful about this ad. It starts talking about stem cell therapy. Now, somewhere in their verbiage, they say they use the word ethical. Don't believe that. That's only for rich people. And we have no idea where they're getting those stem cells. More than likely from aborted babies. And the thing that drives me crazy is we cannot get our churches to stand up in the middle of the pulpit and say, do y'all know that this is going on out there? You don't have to do it every Sunday, but you need to address it when it comes up. But who do you think's coming out on that? The abortion, so how many billion a year? It's $2 or $3 billion a year business killing babies. Before I read this passage, okay? At least that. How do you think? I know a guy, and when Biden went into office and started letting all these people in, he lives in Texas. He was telling me, he said, Bobby, I got this good deal. Said, we got to provide meals for the migrants. Well, they're paying us, I don't know, $20 or something. It cost them $3. You see, do you think that all that migration came in here for no reason? No, it was because people making money off of it. They're making billions. Why are they screaming like a pig stuck on the gate? Because USA got cut out $4 or $5 billion because they're giving that money away. Somebody somewhere is not helping anybody. They make like it's helping them, but it's not. Look at what this says. And the merchants of the earth, I want you to look at that. The merchants of the earth will weep, and this is after the fall of Babylon, will weep and mourn over her, for no one buys their merchandise anymore. Is that something? It's all about the money, right? What did we say? He controls religion, the economy, food supply, all those things, right? In the government, he controls all of it. All right. The merchandise of gold and silver, precious stones and pearls, fine linen and purple, silk and scarlet, every kind of citron wood, every kind of object of ivory. This is an interesting list. This seems like maybe a rich person's list. You know, I mean, I hadn't bought any ivory except for soap lately, but every kind of object of the most precious wood, bronze, iron, marble, cinnamon, incense, fragrant oil, frankincense, wine, and oil. Now, why he listed all this, I'm not sure. We may get to the bottom of it and find out. It says horses, chariots, bodies and souls of men. What do you think about that, right? Where will it be? We're taking people's lives every day in this country, innocent people's lives, right? So he says, the fruit that your soul longed for has gone from you, and all the things which are rich and splendid have gone from you, and you shall find them no more at all. The merchants of these things, listen to this, who became rich by her will stand at a distance for fear of her torment, weeping and wailing. Now, when we get, there'll be more of this when we get to the Antichrist. This is just an overview tonight. I have time to do more with that. Alas, alas, that great city that was clothed in fine linen, purple and scarlet. Now, if you go back and read this, it will tell you that city is based on 7 hills. It's built on 7 hills. That's the reason we believe it's the Roman Church. But anyway, they're controlling the economy through the Antichrist and so forth, right? So it says, and purchased stones and pearls, verse 17, for in 1 hour such great riches came to nothing. Every shipmaster, all who travel by ship, sailors, and as many as trade on the sea, stood at a distance. Listen to this. And they cried, all right? They cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, what is like this great city? They threw dust on their heads and cried out, weeping and wailing, and saying, alas, alas, that great city, which all who had ships on the sea became rich by her wealth, for in 1 hour she is made desolate. Rejoice over her, O heaven, and you holy apostles and prophets, for God, it says, has avenged you on her. I guess that's all we can do tonight.
We meeting next week?
Yes.
Bobby, you don't know how many of the missing children, migrant children came in this country, but over bodies and souls, just